My name is Wayne Wilson. My wife and I are from the United States and are working with Jour Nouveau, which is an NGO in Goma. I am the pastor of UJN Chapel's English language service. Shame is a painful emotion, yet it is all too common. Anthropologists and cultural psychologists note that all societies use guilt and shame as a means of controlling behavior. Reverend Dr. John Piper defines shame as a painful emotion caused by a consciousness of guilt or shortcoming or impropriety. Because we live in a fallen world, shame can be proper or improper. It is appropriate when we are truly guilty. It is inappropriate when we feel shame, but God does not view our actions as wrong. Appropriate shame comes because we are guilty of breaking God's law. Adam and Eve felt appropriate shame after they had disobeyed God by eating fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The Apostle Peter experienced legitimate shame when he denied knowing Jesus Christ 3 times. Peter's shame began this way. The cock crowed, the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Then Peter remembered the word that the Lord had spoken to him. Before the cock crows today, you will deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly. Shame often begins with a feeling of remorse and then progresses into avoiding the individual that one is disappointed. But thankfully, God is a God who pursues us. He pursued Adam and Eve after they had sinned and experienced shame. In the same way, God pursued Peter after he had denied Jesus. The pursuit began when the angel at Jesus' tomb told the woman to inform the disciples and Peter that Jesus would meet them in Galilee. It was beside the Sea of Galilee that Peter's relational separation from Jesus was healed. Jesus and Peter's meeting is recorded in John chapter 21. It began with Peter smelling the same charcoal smell that had been at the fire where Peter had warmed himself and denied Jesus. After breakfast, with the memories of that moment no doubt flooding Peter's mind, Jesus asked Peter twice if he had an unconditional love for him. In response to Jesus' repeated question about the quality of Peter's love, Peter indicated that he was fond of Jesus and used a weaker word for love in the Greek than Jesus did. Finally, Jesus asked Peter, "Are you even fond of me?" Peter responded by saying that Jesus knew Peter's heart, and yes, Peter was fond of him. At the same time that Jesus was confronting Peter's threefold denial with 3 questions, Jesus recommissioned Peter for ministry 3 times. Only weeks later, God used Peter powerfully to bring 3,000 people into the kingdom of God and to begin the New Covenant Church. If you are struggling with shame because you're guilty of sinning against God, be aware that He is pursuing you. He is pursuing you in order to restore you. He calls you to come out of hiding and experience His forgiveness. Proverbs 28:13 describes the way back. He who covers his sin will not prosper, but he who confesses or acknowledges it and forsakes it finds mercy. Today I call you by the grace of God to admit your sin, to turn from it, and to experience God's forgiveness. This is Wayne Wilson, trusting that you have a good and a godly day.